Welcome to Key Trends Spot, your daily dose of what's hot, what's viral, and what's next. From K-pop to culture, we spot the trends so you don't miss a beat. It all began with an unspoken glance across the room, the kind of glance that made everything around Jungkook blur into insignificance. Taehyung was laughing again, that full-bodied, radiant laugh that always filled the room like sunlight. But this time, it wasn't because of Jungkook. It was someone else who stood too close, someone else who triggered that laugh. And for Jungkook, that single moment was enough to ignite a slow-burning storm within his heart. Jungkook wasn't unfamiliar with attention. He was used to people looking at Taehyung, admiring him, praising his deep voice or his ethereal visuals. But lately, something had changed. Taehyung had been getting closer to others. More interviews, more public outings, more warmth shown to people outside their tight-knit circle. Each time Taehyung smiled at someone else, it felt like Jungkook was losing a piece of something he never admitted he owned. That night, back at the dorm, the air between them was thick with silence. Taehyung sat cross-legged on his bed, scrolling through his phone, while Jungkook leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes burning with questions he didn't know how to ask. "Did you have fun today?" Jungkook's voice was casual, but his jaw tightened ever so slightly. Taehyung looked up, surprised. "Yeah. Why?" Jungkook didn't respond immediately. He stared at the floor, gathering courage, chasing words he wished didn't sound so possessive. "You seemed really close with him." The word him hung in the air like smoke. Taehyung tilted his head, catching on quickly. "You mean Minhyun? We've been friends for a while, Kook. You know that." His voice was light, but Jungkook's heart clenched. "No," Jungkook said a little too quickly, a little too sharply. "It's not just Minhyun. It's been a lot lately. You've been everywhere with everyone, but..." He paused. "But me?" That confession slipped out like a wound tearing open. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Taehyung blinked, clearly caught off guard. Jungkook had always been quiet with his emotions. This was different. Taehyung stood up, slowly walking over to him. "Are you jealous?" he asked, almost playfully. But Jungkook didn't smile. His eyes stayed locked on Taehyung's, fierce and unwavering. "Yeah," Jungkook admitted. "I am." And just like that, the room fell into a vulnerable stillness neither of them expected. Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper. "I don't like sharing you, Tae." Taehyung's lips parted, but no words came. The honesty hit him like thunder, raw and sudden. He had never realized how tightly Jungkook held onto him in the quiet corners of his heart. "You've never said that before," he whispered. Jungkook's eyes softened, but the jealousy still lingered like a shadow behind them. "I never had to. Until now." There was a heaviness in the way Jungkook's hands fidgeted, betraying the calm in his expression. "I know I don't own you. I know you're free to be with whoever you want. But it kills me when I see you giving parts of yourself to others that I thought were just for me." His voice cracked, just a little, but enough to slice through Taehyung's heart like glass. Taehyung reached out, gently taking Jungkook's hand. "You're not losing me," he said quietly. "You never were." But Jungkook shook his head, almost frustrated. "Then why does it feel like I'm being replaced? Every time you're with them, it feels like I'm less needed. Like you don't look for me the way I always look for you." Taehyung didn't answer with words. Instead, he stepped closer, pulling Jungkook into a quiet embrace. For a while, the world outside their room vanished. The only thing that mattered was the rhythmic beating of two hearts pressed together in the stillness of night. Taehyung whispered, You've always been the one I come back to. Even if I wander, I never stay far. But Jungkook's jealousy wasn't so easily washed away. It was deeper than possessiveness. It was rooted in fear. Fear of losing the person who meant more to him than he'd ever dared admit. Sometimes I think, what if one day someone gives you something I can't, and you choose them? The confession was so quiet, it nearly broke Taehyung's heart in half. Taehyung pulled back just enough to look Jungkook in the eyes. There are things only you can give me, Jungkook. Your presence, your soul, your chaos and calm. I don't want someone who gives me more. I want someone who gives me you. And those words began to heal the cracks Jungkook had hidden under his composed smile. Still, jealousy lingered like a ghost. The next time Taehyung laughed too long at another's joke, Jungkook felt the ache rise again. But this time, he caught Taehyung looking at him through the corner of his eye, checking if Jungkook was watching, silently reassuring him that he still mattered most. And strangely, that glance was enough. Jealousy didn't make Jungkook weak. It made him real. It forced him to confront emotions he had buried for years, under layers of professionalism and friendship. He started seeing his bond with Taehyung for what it truly was. Not something casual, not something that could be replicated. It was sacred. It was unique. And with every passing day, Jungkook found himself gravitating more toward Taehyung. Not because he was afraid of losing him, but because he wanted to cherish him fully. The late-night talks became deeper, the silences more meaningful. They didn't always say it, but their connection spoke louder than words ever could. One evening, during a quiet walk under the Seoul city lights, Jungkook finally let the last wall crumble. "I think I love you, Taehyung," he said, his voice barely audible over the wind. Taehyung didn't look surprised. He only smiled, the kind of smile that made Jungkook feel seen, safe, and understood. "I know," Taehyung replied. "I've always known." From that night on, things changed. Not dramatically, but subtly. Jungkook no longer felt the need to compete with the world for Taehyung's attention, because now he understood. The bond they shared wasn't threatened by others. It lived quietly in the spaces between them, unshaken, unbreakable. Still, the world didn't stop turning. There were new people, new projects, and endless media to face. But through it all, Jungkook stayed grounded by one thing: Taehyung's loyalty. His subtle glances during interviews, his inside jokes that only Jungkook understood, his soft touches in passing, they were constant reminders of what they shared. The jealousy never vanished completely. It would flare up now and then, like a stubborn ember refusing to die. But Jungkook learned to talk about it, to be honest with Taehyung without shame. And Taehyung, in return, always listened, never mocking, never dismissive. Their trust grew deeper in those moments of vulnerability. During one rehearsal, Taehyung playfully danced with another member, laughing hysterically. Jungkook watched from the side, that familiar sting returning. But then, Taehyung looked over, winked, and mouthed, "This is still for you." And just like that, the sting turned into warmth. Jungkook smiled. He believed him. It was in those moments that Jungkook realized jealousy wasn't the enemy. It was just a signpost pointing toward the depth of his love. It reminded him how much he cared, how much he wanted to protect what he held sacred. And as long as he turned that jealousy into communication, not control, it could bring them closer, not pull them apart. They started having more late-night conversations, talking about fears, dreams, the future. Jungkook confessed how scared he had been of losing Taehyung to someone who might shine brighter. Taehyung, in turn, admitted he had once been afraid that Jungkook would outgrow him. They laughed at how alike they were in their silent insecurities. One day, Taehyung gave Jungkook a handwritten letter. It said, "You don't need to fight for my attention, Jungkook. You already have my heart." That letter stayed in Jungkook's drawer for years, its corners worn from being reread on restless nights. Their love, though never declared to the world, grew stronger behind closed doors, in shared music, in stolen glances, in quiet understanding. Jungkook no longer needed the world to validate their bond. He had all the proof he needed every time Taehyung looked at him like he was the only person that existed. And when Taehyung hugged others, Jungkook didn't flinch. When he complimented others, Jungkook smiled. Because he knew now. He wasn't just another chapter in Taehyung's story. He was the spine holding the book together. The journey wasn't perfect, but it was real. Jungkook's jealousy had been the spark that led to a deeper understanding between them. It taught them the value of openness, of choosing each other over and over again, even when the world threatened to distract them. Years later, in an interview, when asked who he trusted the most in the world, Jungkook didn't hesitate. Taehyung, he said simply. No explanation, no hesitation. And Taehyung, watching from backstage, smiled knowingly. That was their truth, subtle but eternal. Behind the cameras, behind the music, there was a story that fans could only guess at. A love story not bound by labels, not broadcast to the world. It was written in the language of glances, protected by silence, but pulsing with emotion too loud to be ignored. And through it all, Jungkook learned that loving someone didn't mean owning them. It meant trusting them, believing in the bond you shared. And now, when he watched Taehyung laugh with others, Jungkook no longer felt fear. Because he knew, no matter where Taehyung went, his heart always found its way back to him.